Part 283. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2828. The emperor had not publicly disclosed this matter in the court, nor had he discussed it with other ministers. He only mentioned it to the prince, and Xiao Yuan was the third person to know about it. The reason why I told Xiao Yuan was because I wanted him to prepare for what happened after Zhou Man left. Xiao Yuan went back to discuss with Imperial Dr. Lu and others. As soon as Zhou Man leaves, the female doctors in the palace and the capital will not be enough. It is not enough for Dr. Lu to help one person. He looked at Imperial Physician Lu and said, as soon as Zhou Man leaves, I will ask Dr. Lu to be an Imperial Physician. Let's tentatively set the rank 7, and then select 2 female students from the Imperial Physician's office to join the Imperial Physician as a medical assistant. Imperial Physician Lu immediately reciprocated, Zhou Liru is not bad, her medical skills are also outstanding among many female students. Xiao Yuan nodded after thinking about it. He also liked Zhou Liru. First, the other party's medical skills were really good. Second, Zhou Man would definitely be demoted. Although the emperor had already thought about the crime, she would have to give it a shot. A sweet date should be good for Zhou Liru. Thirdly, their hospital needs to train more female doctors. Zhou Liru has seen a lot with Zhou Man, and is not cowardly in the face of nobles, and has an advantage over other female students. Who else? Imperial Physician Zheng is also familiar with the students in the Imperial Physician's office. After thinking about it, he said, Chen Bangxia and Suye are also good. They also made a contribution in this eastern expedition. Then set the 3 of them temporarily, go back and screen, choose 2 to enter the Thai hospital, and the rest can be arranged in the capital medical office. I have written to your majesty to build a medical office in the capital, and the local medical office. In the same way, he is specially responsible for the health of officials below the 4th rank, as well as the medical treatment of the poor people in the jurisdiction. Zheng Tai was nervous and asked, what is the standard for seeking medical treatment? If anyone can do it, the medical department will spend a lot of medicinal materials, right? Only the medicine fee and diagnosis fee will be waived, Xiao Yuan said righteously. It's just a common disease, and the medicinal materials for major diseases are expensive, so we certainly can't prescribe a prescription, but in addition, the most important thing is to vaccinate. Now that the guards of the Imperial Army can be vaccinated against vaccinia, it is the turn of ordinary people. Zheng Tai suddenly realized that the population of the capital is quite large. Even if the floating population is excluded, there are also hundreds of thousands of permanent residents. So many people can't be vaccinated in 2 or 3 years, so everyone's problems are not small. Xiao Yuan said, the Huangzhuang in the eastern suburbs is still used by our Imperial Physician's office. He paused and said, Your Majesty said that all the people sent to the local medical office are students, and they have no management ability and experience, and the Beijing medical office is in the capital, under the eyes of His Majesty and the courtiers. If we make mistakes again, the Imperial Physician's office really has no face to stand in the DPRK. When the others heard it, they couldn't help looking at each other, and asked cautiously, so what does Yuan Zheng mean? Send someone to take over the Beijing medical department, he said, transferred from the Imperial Medical Department to the Beijing Medical Department, and the position in the Imperial Medical Department is still reserved. After all, local medical bureaus don't have jobs and fields, they only have salaries. To divide the field, you still have to look at the position of the Thai hospital. Everyone seems to be reluctant to talk to each other. Although the Beijing medical office is still in the capital, it already belongs to the local medical office after all, and it is still incomparable with the Imperial Medical Office. Xiao Yuan saw that none of them spoke, so he got up and said, you can think about it when you go back, and tell me when you're ready. Imperial Physician Lu walked out slowly behind Xiao Yuan, and it was impossible for anyone to go there. Since he was too old, he seldom managed the imperial physician's office, and was more likely to teach like Zhou Man. Second, he spent more time in the palace for consultation. When Xiao Yuan Zheng was not there, if the emperor and the prince called him, they would basically call him. Thirdly, he is a high official. Imperial physician Lu pretended to be old enough to catch up and ask Xiao Yuan Zheng, the hospital is asking them to recommend themselves, is there no one in their hearts? Have. Dr. Lu smiled and asked, who is it? Dr. Zheng is good. Imperial physician Lu laughed, then you asked them to recommend themselves and ordered Imperial physician Zheng directly. One is to see if anyone is willing to go to the place. If someone opens up, he will find an opportunity to send someone to the place in the future. Now our medical department is in a bad situation in the local area. Second, if Zheng Tai is willing, I asked, so wouldn't it be better if I gave it to him? Xiao Yuan Zheng walked side by side with Imperial physician Lu and sighed, Jishitang is quite famous in the capital. Although the Imperial physician's office has organized free clinics for the common people in recent years, it is still a bit different from establishing a medical office. Only the lower households are exempted from the fee for diagnosis and medicine, but other people will definitely come to the medical office to seek medical treatment, and there are even more such patients than the free lower households. This is bound to take away the business of the pharmacy of the hospital. Imperial physician Zheng will be the first executive order of the Beijing medical office. It depends on Ji Shitang's choice, but no matter what, Imperial physician Zheng will do this more than he can. It's much easier for other unfounded doctors to do it. Imperial physician Lu nodded, but suddenly poured a basin of cold water and asked, what if Imperial physician Zheng chose Ji Shitang instead? The smile on Xiao Yuan Zhen's face froze slightly, and then he laughed and said, then I can only be sorry. Officialdom is human, but ruthless is not less. Imperial physician Lu stopped talking. As the Thai hospital was preparing, the emperor pressed down Luozhu's booklets, until Zhou Man, which once every 10 days was also sent to the capital, dismantling it to see that King Gong's weight loss business was going well, and Luoyang was doing well. After the sunshine was good during this time, Master Yu's book was approved. He didn't let Zhenggu stay in Luoyang. Since Zhou Man was going to be released, he had to have an excuse, so he asked Master Yu and Master Xia to deal with Luoyang's affairs and escorted them back to Beijing. As for Zhou Man, the emperor wrote a letter to King Gong and said to him, Luoyang is about to melt the snow, and the snow disaster has just passed, so it may not be cold again. If you want to lose weight, you might as well return to Beijing to live. He added, the Taiji Palace is humid and uncomfortable to live in. You can go to the Tangquan courtyard outside the city to live, which is good for leg problems and weight loss. The emperor said, you can set off at the end of the first month, and maybe you can spend time with your family. After the emperor sent the letter, he said to the prince, how did you choose the 3 places that I have circled for you? The prince said, my son is still thinking about it. The emperor nodded, think about it carefully, Bai Shan has talent, but he still needs experience. Now the country is peaceful, it's not like when I was a time of war, just throwing people in a place, all kinds of chaos are taken up, and one is smoothed out. The place, the meeting will also be able to, not, basically all died. So the way you raise your ministers and I raise them are different, the emperor sighed, unfortunately, the right and left hands that I have to use are old, and I don't know how many I can leave for you in the end, so you have to raise them yourself. Minister. The emperor knocked on the table and said, make a good choice. The prince pondered. See you tomorrow. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2829. The prince walked out of the Taiji Hall and was about to return to the East Palace. After thinking about it halfway, he turned around and went to the duty room of Zhongsha province. Bai Shan and Master Fang were looking at the book, and there were clerks who brought the book in, and some who took the book to Mengxia province and Taiji Hall. When everyone saw the prince coming in, they stopped their movements and stood up to salute, "Meet the prince." The prince nodded, and directly nodded to Bai Shandao, "Bai Sharan, I have something to tell you." Bai Shan put away the things on the desk and went out with the prince. On a cold day, the crown prince was too lazy to invite people to the East Palace to speak, so he walked directly to the Bayou Bridge outside. The two of them stood on the bridge while the wind was blowing while talking. This had the advantage. It was empty everywhere. Unless someone was hiding under the bridge now, no one could hear them talking. The prince asked Bai Shan, "Do you want to go out?" Bai Shan was stunned for a moment and should be. The prince asked, "Is there a place you like?" Bai Shan thought for a while and then said, "Jianese and Jiangnan are not bad." The prince smiled, "You know how to choose, and you deliberately avoided the Central Plains. There are many people in the Central Plains, the local nobility is prosperous, and the people live a stable and peaceful life. If there is no catastrophe, the people and officials will not change their minds, and it is not easy to make achievements in the Central Plains. Therefore, Baidi, Jianese and Jiangnan are the best. You can see Yang He's choice. Jianese was the one he chose at first. Lujiang County was poor, and it was flooded at that time. There were many wastelands and many people lost. Talented people are easy to apply in such a place, and naturally they are easy to make achievements. The second place he chose was Xiaoshu. Xiaoshu is connected to the grasslands. Nomads live on 1/3 of the land. The folk customs are sturdy, and they can attack and defend. It is also a good place to accumulate experience and make achievements. Of course, the premise is that the people who go there can keep it, otherwise the talents are mediocre and the confidence is low, and I am afraid that they will eventually become the tools of the local wealthy family. The prince looked at Bai Shan with admiration and said, "Your Majesty has circled 3 places for you, Jiazhu in Jianese, and Jiajiang County in Jiazhu. The second place is Taizhu on Jiangnan Road, under which the magistrate of Shifeng County has been promoted. The third place is Qingzhou, where the magistrate of Yuta County was escorted from Jingzhou and the magistrate of Bihai County in the Battle of the Eastern Expedition last year. Taking over from Yuta County, Bihai County will be left vacant." Bai Shan's heart moved, and he asked, "Where does your highness want the minister to go?" Since this is the place circled by the emperor, obviously he can go anywhere in these 3 places. What about the prince? Bai Shan is only a small middle school bookmaker, and the one who wants to be released is only a county magistrate, but the emperor is so dedicated to give him a choice of places in person, and then tells the prince to let the prince arrange it. He uses his toes. The head wants to know the purpose of it. The prince thought about it on the way here, and said, "Taizhu is too far away, the climate difference between the north and the south is too great, you have never been to the south of the Yangtze River, and His Majesty intends to release Zhou Man, and now the medical department is only in the north and the central plains. It was established in the area and has never reached the south of the Yangtze River, so Shifeng County can ignore it. Jiazhu, it's good, but I think Qingzhou is better," the prince said bluntly, not holding back. Qingzhou has a vast territory and rich resources, but has a small population. Because Bihai County is close to the sea, there are many fishermen, so it is very poor, but Bihai County also has an advantage. It is connected to Leizhu. Last year, during the Eastern War, Feng Shangshu went from Leizhu Bay to Leizhu Bay in Baisha City, and at least 1/3 of it was in Bihai County. The organizational system of Qingzhou has been changed several times. Previously, Qingzhou was not called Qingzhou, but Bihai County. Now Leizhu and Dengzhou were originally under the jurisdiction of Bihai County. When the emperor first changed Bihai County to Qingzhou, there is a section in the middle that is not clearly divided. Bihai County once included the current area of Leizhu, but until now, it was further subdivided 8 or 9 years ago, and it has now been divided. But the prince heard Feng Shangshu said that there are still some problems with the division over there. Just like the former Wanyan County magistrate, Guo County has been secretly trying to grab the land from the neighboring Yangzhou Liang County. Bihai County has always wanted to rob Lais Hu and squeeze to the opposite side to become the governor of the state can be described as very ambitious. However, Lais Hu has always rejected Bihai County, and even Bing County is not willing, because the name Bihai is pleasant, and there are many rich and wealthy businessmen in Bihai County, but the proportion of poor people is larger and the arable land is not much, so Lais Hu does not like Bihai County. But the prince thought it was a good place, and he said, now the whole area of Liaodong belongs to the great Jin dynasty. It is a long way from the land to the Duhufu of Andong, but the sea route is very fast. Silla and Baikya are all vassal states. There are many business trips, and if you do it well, it is not impossible to grab Lais Hu Bay from Lais Hu. Bai Shan was still very kind, and said, this is not good, can you still call it Lais Hu Bay if you grab it? The prince said lightly, you can rename it Bihaiwan. He said, only this one thing, if you do it well, when you come back, the sky will rise. Bai Shan thought for a while and then agreed, I go back and think about it. He had to go back and ask Mr. and Man Bao. The prince nodded and said, the new officials will take office in March or April. You still have 1 month to consider, and another month to prepare. Bai Shan said, I will give your highness an answer as soon as possible. The prince nodded and turned to leave. Bai Shan himself also liked Qingzhou and asked Mr. Zhuang. Mr. Zhuang touched his chin and said, Prince did think of a good way for you, but it is for officials and people's livelihood. If you go for credit from the beginning, you will lose your heart. He said again, you robbed Lais Hu Bay, but it's just the icing on the cake on Lais Hu Bay. Lais Hu can do it by himself. This is a good thing for Bihai County, but for the entire Great Jin, this is just a left hand for a right hand. What's the meaning? Bai Shan nodded, students think so too, but Qingzhou is vast and rich in resources, and the distance from the capital is not very far. The most important thing is that it can communicate directly with Silla Baikya, so I still like it. Mr. Zhuang nodded, let's go then, ask Man Bao if she likes Qingzhou, you two just decide. Bai Shan responded and said, Sir, Your Majesty wants to give me to His Royal Highness the Prince. Mr. Zhuang nodded and said, I can see it as a teacher, so what do you think? Bai Shan said, I am a minister of Dajin, a minister of Your Majesty. It is the duty of a minister to protect the orthodoxy, and it is harmless to the country. I don't mind getting close to the prince. He paused and said, but Your Highness has been impatient recently. Bai Shan said, Your Majesty is prosperous this year, and he values the prince. There is no need for the prince to train his confidants so quickly. Mr. Zhuang nodded approvingly, but said, is this what Your Majesty also meant? Your Majesty can have this plan, but the prince cannot. Mr. Zhuang nodded and said, I have a class tomorrow, and I will answer questions for the prince. Bai Shan was relieved, the court was very stable now, and he didn't want to start some unnecessary disputes again. See you at 6 p.m. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2830. Master Yu and the others dealt with the disaster in Luoyang, and escorted the magistrate Luo and Zhenggu back to Beijing a few days after the Lantern Festival. Zhou Man needed to return to Beijing with Prince Gong's family, so it was already the 20th of the first lunar month when they were ready. Man Bao went to bid farewell to Inspector He. Inspector He was still struggling, and his body became even weaker. He was so thin that only a handful of bones were left. He opened his eyes to look at Zhou Man, and smiled slightly, this parting is a goodbye, I wish you all the best. Lord Zhou has traveled thousands of miles and has a smooth life. Man Bao responded softly and said, I also congratulate you on getting your wish and returning home as soon as possible. Inspector, he nodded slightly as he didn't even dare to breathe harder. Mrs. He wiped her tears and sent Joe Man out, all the way to the gate. Thank you, Sir Joe. These days he has been the most relaxed since he was seriously ill for more than a month. As soon as you leave, Man Bao said, when I return to the capital, I will discuss with His Majesty. Mrs. He nodded again and again. Man Bao told her, in the future, the diet at home should be light, less salt and less frying. The reason why you have this disease in your family is not hereditary, but a problem of the dietary environment. Mrs. He had written a letter to her son and daughter-in-law who was away, and she had already warned her, so she was even more mindful at this time. She turned to look at the old woman behind her, and after a while, someone came down with something, a box, followed by the girl holding Ling Luo. Mrs. He took the box and said, I know that Lord Zhou is a celebrity in the palace, and there is no shortage of silk and satin, so I prepared 2 medical books for you early. Mrs. He opened it and took out 2 books from it to show her. She wondered, Wei's medicine records. Mrs. He explained, this is left by a Taoist doctor in the previous dynasty. Although he is a Taoist, his medical skills are good. Lord Zhou also said that my family has this disease for several generations, and my father-in-law kept him when he was still alive. I want the doctor in the house to study some of it, but unfortunately it has not been accomplished. Zhou Man's eyes brightened. This Taoist Wei has been cured of this disease. It hasn't been cured, but it can be relieved. My father-in-law's illness was cured by him. He didn't die until the 8th year of Dajhan, but he didn't feel very uncomfortable when he died. It was all thanks to Dr. Wei's conditioning. Zhou Man calculated the age of Master He when he arrived at Dajhan for 8 years, and it was indeed considered a long life, at least better than his son. Mrs. He sighed, unfortunately, this Dr. Wei is free and easygoing, and doesn't want to stay in one place for a long time. Although he comes back from time to meet with his father-in-law, he will always leave after a while. After my father-in-law passed away, he never appeared again. We calculated his age, and now he has reached the age of rarity. I don't know if he is still there. She said, since the master fell ill, we sent people to search everywhere, but unfortunately we couldn't find anyone, and we took the prescription he used to give to the father-in-law, but it still didn't work. The doctors said that people are different. The medicines used are also different. Man Bao nodded, this is a good reason. At that time, when I saw Lord Zhou, I thought, only this gift is worthy of you. Mrs. He closed the box and handed it to Zhou Man. The words in this are very scribbled, I have seen it, my eyes are dizzy, and it is written I don't understand what I said at all, and even if I show it to the doctors in the house, 76 times out of 10 I can't understand it. If Master Zhou can study it, if he encounters a patient like my master in the future, even if he can't be cured, it will make him feel better. Mrs. He has taken care of her husband for nearly a year. The biggest feeling is that it is not terrible to be sick, but to suffer from such a painful disease. It seems that life is like suffering. If only her husband could chat and laugh when he was seriously ill like his father-in-law, then death would not be a luxury. Zhou Man took it solemnly and said solemnly, thank you Mrs. He, Zhou Man will definitely live up to your trust. This is really a precious gift. Man Bao walked away with the box in his arms. After returning to Prince Gong's mansion, he opened the box and carefully took out the 2 booklets. This is a handwritten note. Man Bao flipped through it. The handwriting was indeed very scribbled. She couldn't tell what some words were, but she could recognize most of them. After checking the context and looking at the glyphs, she could barely recognize them. Zibing came in with 2 Ling Luo and asked, Sir, what should I do with Ling Luo? Man Bao said without raising his head, just put it in the box and take it back. The cake was ready, and the luggage was tidied up before stuffing it in. Alas, this time I came out, not only did not have less, but also more. Princess Gong also quietly gave Zhou Man a plate of carriage fees yesterday. Although Zhou Man was ordered to see a doctor, she was polite. When she arrived in the capital, she would be merciful to Prince Gong and his son, wouldn't she? Princess Gong thought very well, so she even gave a few extra coins for this. Who knew that when he returned to the capital, Zhou Man was immediately suspended from work, and the weight loss business of Prince Gong and his son was handed over to the doctor Xiao Tan. Of course, the emperor specially instructed, just use Zhou Man's recipes and plans. If you have nothing to do, go to Zhou's house and communicate with Zhou Man about this. The people in the Taiyuan hospital who are worried about Zhou Man, it doesn't look like they hate Zhou Man and want to ask her about her sins. Man Bao, who had returned home, had already learned the truth from Bai Shan, but Lao Zhutu and the others didn't. The family was frightened and could not sleep peacefully. Man Bao couldn't help muttering to Bai Shan, really, if you want to be demoted, you should demote, why do you want to play first? Bai Shandao, this is a rule, there are merits and rewards, and there are punishments for crimes. If you are not guilty, you can directly send it to the place. It seems that the courtiers will only feel that His Majesty does whatever he wants, and the system in the court is chaotic. What about you? You are now a member of Zongshu Shiren, and if you are going to be a county magistrate, don't you want to be punished? Bai Shandao, well, I'm simpler than you. I want to enter an important position in the 3 provinces and 6 departments. It's certain to be released. I'm young, and I released the news of the release half a year earlier, so I don't have to be guilty. The reason why Bai Shan was able to follow the imperial car to fight in Liaodong at the beginning was that he used the assignment in the coming year to make the other 2 colleagues give up the competition. Man Bao Tisk Tisk said, I have to go to the palace tomorrow, Your Majesty shouldn't be angry with me, right? No, Bai Shan said, His Majesty revealed that the local medical office was in chaos 2 days ago, and wanted to release you. The courtiers all know that your involvement by Zhenggu is only on the bright side. The reason, everyone knows the reason for your release this time, you just enter, everyone will not be so real in acting. Sure enough, when Zhou Man entered the palace the next day, the guards at the palace gate treated her as usual, and the maids in the palace treated her as usual. On the way to the Taiji Hall, they met familiar adults, and everyone greeted her as usual. Lu Shangshu also sighed with her, Master Zhou is going to be released. Lu Huan's wedding date is set for the 8th day of March. I don't know if Master Zhou can leave after the wedding. See you at 10 p.m. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2831. Zhou Man thought about it and said, I have to ask your majesty about this. Emperor, the imperial decree to demote has not been issued yet, but you all know that she is going to be released. The emperor finally met Zhou Man alone in the study, and when he saw her, he asked, Xiao Yuanzheng told you, what do you think of Qing Zhou? Zhou Man nodded and said, not bad. The emperor said, then choose Qing Zhou, tomorrow I will issue an order, you are ready to take office. He said, the county magistrate of Bihai County has been missing for a long time, and Qing Zhou is a new medical office. There are still many things to do when you arrive there. Zhou Man said, Bihai County was the county magistrate that was changed at the end of November. Compared with Luozhu, the lack of provincial governors has been longer. She bowed and saluted, Your Majesty, the inspector he of Luozhu is seriously ill, and there is not much time left. I request His Majesty to select a new inspector and allow Inspector he to resign and return to his hometown. The emperor sighed and said after a long silence, forget it, let him go back to his hometown first. The 3rd child has already entered the capital, and it is not a big problem for the governor to leave Luozhu at this time. The emperor's finger tapped his knee and said, send someone to go to Luozhu immediately, and congratulate the governor for his hard work for the country. Luo's Hu shepherd, the reward is one level up. Gu Zhong immediately bowed to answer, and went backwards to find the decree of Zhongsha province. By the way, I went to Mengxia province to find the resignation document that has been pressing down for the emperor to approve, and then sent it to Luo's Hu by the tolerance. The inspector who was already at the end of the fight, received the book and the imperial decree, and immediately became energetic, and immediately said to Mrs. Quick, pack up the carriage and horses, and we will return to our hometown immediately. Mrs. cried and laughed, where is the hurry for so long, anyway, pack up the things. Mr. He shook his head and said, I already feel that time is running out. I can't afford to delay, I can't afford to delay. We will go back with our close servants, and let the housekeeper stay and clean up the rest slowly. Mrs. He held back her tears. Mr. He became a lot more energetic, and he also started to be the director, meeting and making arrangements in an orderly manner, write letters to the lords and ask them to ask for leave to return to their hometown. Their father can't make it any longer, and maybe they can see the last time in time. He also saw the chief minister and Sima of the prefect's mansion, and told them, King Gong is not in Luo's Hu at this time, but you must be careful when you wait, and avoid feasts. Luoyang is only experiencing the snow disaster at this time, and everything should be stable. Luoyang, when the county magistrate is vacant, Chang Shi will temporarily take the responsibility. He breathed for a while before continuing, the snow is about to melt, and at this time it is important to persuade Nong Sang. He added, the imperial physician's office will definitely send someone to take over the medical office here. I guess it is not a well-known imperial physician in the imperial physician's office, so it is still Zhenggu. The medical office can't stop it, you don't have to reach out and stop it, Your Majesty Shirji and people's livelihood, whoever blocks and kills whoever has only one life, please cherish it. Chang Shi and Sima both bowed their heads. We have worked together for many years, and I can only give you these suggestions. From now on, please cherish each other. Sir, both Chang Shi and Sima looked at Inspector He with emotion and sadness. Chang Shi was even promoted by Inspector He, but he had only been in the position of Chang Shi for 2 years, so his foundation was not stable, and although he was capable, he was not amazing. Therefore, Inspector He did not recommend him to be Inspector He, but he was grateful for He. Assassins. He wiped his tears and asked, My lord, my face has improved a lot since Lord Zhou came, and I don't cry anymore. It's obviously getting better. Why don't you ask Lord Zhou again? Inspector He shook his head and said, This is the end of the shot. Those are just illusions. Can I still not know my body? But the Lord doesn't have 2 medical books left by his ancestors. The doctor in the house can't study it, but Master Zhou may be able to study it. Inspector He still shook his head, it's useless. His eyes seemed to be looking through them. Wei Daokang said back then that my father's disease was discovered early, so he took more than 10 years of medicine to control it well. If it was discovered late, the disease was already, if it gets into the bone marrow, even the Delugo immortal can't save it. But he still didn't believe it, and he didn't want to die, so when he found out that he was also sick, he went so hard to find Daokang Wei. After he couldn't find it, he showed the 2 booklets to the doctor in the house. Zhenggu looked at the famous doctors in Luoyang City. They understood a little bit, and then cut out the prescription from it to give him medicine. When it didn't work, he took out the prescription Wei Daokang had prescribed to his father, and drank the medicine according to the medicine. In the end, a Taoist priest who passed by heard the sound and looked at him and said, If 6 points of your body are damaged by illness, then 4 points are caused by indiscriminate medication. He also flipped through the 2 handbooks left by Daokang Wei and said, There are many records in it. It is not one side of the disease, or the other side of the disease. The doctor also needs to change the medicine according to the patient's different prescriptions. The doctor who only prescribes the prescription according to the book, and the prescription is different several times, how can your body bear it? It's better to hide this book and let the doctors prescribe prescriptions based on your condition and their knowledge. Maybe it won't get better, but at least it won't get worse as it is now. Inspector he listened to the opinions of the other party, and since then he has selected 2 doctors, and each time he only invites them, and only takes the medicine they prescribed. His body gradually stabilized. Although it was still very painful, he was already bedridden in August and September and felt like he was going to die, but he was able to calm down and live until the 12th month in one breath. Seeing Jo-man again, after her needle and dressing change, he not only felt the long-lost relief, but also felt less pain. After that, he even dared not hand over the record to Jo-man at that time, for fear that she would be the same as those doctors. If you lose your own prescription, you will prescribe it according to the notes, and then you will be the one who will suffer. Of course, there is no need to tell the 2 subordinates about these twists and turns. He said, "This time, Your Majesty can approve my report thanks to Lord Jo. He owes her a favor. If she needs you in the future, it is not a big deal. For my sake, make it easier for her." Chang Shi and Sima responded together. Inspector he went back to his hometown in a light car the next day. It was the end of February when Man Bao received his letter again. The letter was not written by Mr. He, but Mrs. He. She told Jo-man that they returned to their hometown on the 9th day of the 2nd lunar month, and Mr. He passed away on the 13th day of February. Man Bao received the letter, sighed and put the letter in the box. After thinking about it, she closed the doors and windows, entered the space, and went to the classroom to see the anthropomorphic models. Keek scanned Hizishi's body data, and she also drew his blood. The anthropomorphic model has simulated Hizishi's condition to the greatest extent possible. During this period, Man Bao thought of many ways, and even wanted to do as teacher Mo said. The lump on the stomach was removed, but she had 21 surgeries back and forth, all of which were unsuccessful. Man Bao stared down at the anthropomorphic model and didn't speak at this time, and Keek had to disturb her. "There is a guest at your house, and he has come to the main courtyard." Man Bao returned to his senses, backed out, and then opened the door. He saw Mrs. Tang carrying her skirt across the threshold of the yard, and when she saw her, she smiled and said, "The spring is just right, everyone is putting on makeup for your niece in front of you, how can you hide? Not going out in the main courtyard. See you tomorrow." Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2832. At this time Zhou Liru had entered the Thai hospital as an intern, and he could finish his studies in April, either staying in the Thai hospital, or being sent to various medical offices. It will be very busy afterwards, so the Liu family asked for a date a few years ago and specially arranged the wedding date in March. Today is the day she puts on makeup. Her classmates and friends, as well as some people close to the Zhou family will also come to add makeup. Mrs. Tang came here for Jo-man's sake, so she came here after adding things. Jo-man closed the door, turned around with Mrs. Tang and went to the back garden to enjoy the flowers while talking. "I'm thinking about something." Mrs. Tang had also heard some rumors, and sighed, "According to your senior brother, you are being implicated by Master Xiao Zheng, and you are going to be demoted." Although everyone in the palace and the court has a tacit understanding, these things have not been spread. First of all, this matter is not small, but it is not big. The Chinese New Year is coming, and everyone is busy. Jo-man nodded, and comforted Mrs. Tang, "This is what we asked for, so sister-in-law Shui doesn't have to worry." Mrs. Tang asked, "Do you know where you are going?" This matter cannot be disclosed in advance, and now there are no more than 2 palms who know that they are going to Qingzhou, so Jo-man said vaguely, "It depends on how His Majesty assigns it." The emperor gave Jo-man a lot of face, and waited for her niece to add makeup before making an order. Zheng Gu was fined 10 months of salary for dereliction of duty. He acted on behalf of the Luozhou Medical Administration Department order and made a contribution. So Zhou Man lost his official position as a 5th-rank imperial physician, and became an order from the 7th-rank Qingzhou Medical Administration. Fortunately, the official position of Kong Wenyan has not changed. Not only can she occupy the position of the 4th rank, but she still has the power to write directly to the emperor. So Zhou Man took the new appointment letter and went to the household department to find Lu Shangshu, and said to him, "You can change my job field for me." She said, "The job field in Pu village will be included in my official position in Kongwengan, and the job field in Old Nance Huang will be taken back as the job field of my imperial medical office. Anyway, after being demoted, you have to take back a certain amount of jobs, as long as the amount is right." Lu Shangshu looked at it and said, "There are more fertile fields in Junanzhuang than in Pukan. Why did you choose to give up the land of employment there?" When Zhou Man got the job in Pu village, she was just a small 6th-rank imperial physician. The position in Pu village was good, but in terms of it, it was actually not as good as when she was promoted to 4th-rank editor. She was a popular person in front of the emperor and the crown prince at that time, and the Hubu specially selected the Old Nance Huang area from among the fields as a working field for her. That piece of land is not only flat, but also fertile, most of which are fertile fields, and there are more paddy fields than dry fields. Man Bao sighed and said, "My family has been running the job field in Kepi village for a longer period of time, and has invested more, and the current income is higher than that of the Old Nance Huang. So let's exchange the Old Nance Huang for the job field in Pu village." The Ministry of Finance had no objection, because she was exchanging the good for the bad, so she naturally agreed. Then he signed the official document, and Zhou Man said, "Didn't the white son-in-law get promoted last year, but he didn't catch up with last year's group of job assignments, so he should be assigned this year. Why don't you give him the piece of Old Nance Huang?" Lu Shangshu. Zhou Man said so, and the next day Bai Erlang came over in person to book a job in Junanzhuang. After a few days, even the emperor knew about it. He didn't want to know, but there were all kinds of rumors outside, and Gu Zhong brought it out when he talked about the news outside. Many people said that they didn't expect it. The princesses added makeup to Lord Zhou's niece, but after only 2 days, His Majesty demoted her and released her. They said that they were not sure whether Lord Zhou fell out of favor or still favored. The emperor snorted and said, "They underestimated me too much. The person who said this must be a woman, and she has a bad relationship with the man in the family. Otherwise, she would not know my plan. It's no secret that he wants to rectify the local medical office so that it can take root in the local area. All the courtiers with a little brain know the reason and purpose of Zhou Man's release. Anything else?" Gu Zhong said with a smile, "There is also the matter of Mr. Zhou's employment. Your Majesty doesn't know that Mr. Zhou's job is managed by himself, and he is never managed by the household department. Oh, I heard that the income is more than twice that of the household department. In addition, the tenants in the job field also lives are better than public tenants, and in just a few years, all the tenants in Pu village have built new houses." The emperor couldn't help sitting upright. "I have vaguely heard who said this, and said that they want to follow Zhou Man's management model to manage the jobs in the hands of Huang Zhuang and the Ministry of Households." Gu Zhong also tilted his head and thought hard, and after thinking for a long time, he said uncertainly, "It seems that the prince mentioned it, but it was several years ago, and the servant can't remember it clearly." The emperor patted his thigh and said, "It's the prince. Well, call him and ask, Zhou Man's job field is really so good?" Gu Zhong agreed with a smile, and while having someone call the prince, he joked with the emperor, "I heard that the son-in-law and Lord Bai even invested money in Mr. Zhou's Zhuangzi before they became official, so these years have also there are benefits." This time Mr. Zhou returned to his job, and the son-in-law went directly to the Ministry of Households to ask for it. The emperor frowned. Job allocation is a state matter, how can he ask the Ministry of Households to give it directly to him? Gu Zhong said with a smile, Your Majesty forgot, the son-in-law was also promoted last year, but at that time, the division of duties has passed, and it is customary to wait for an extra year. The emperor's face looked better now, but he still said, This is not good. What if the Ministry of Household Affairs is doing favoritism because he is a son-in-law? There are too many tricks in the job field. Divide more, or avoid bad fields, and directly assign the fertile ones to the other party. This is a routine operation. Seriously, hook them up, and after a few years, the professional field will become a private field, and it will disappear inexplicably. Gu Zhong responded with a smile, and asked, Your Majesty, do you want to hit the household department? The emperor thought for a while and said, Bai Cheng can understand if he wants that job field. After all, they have been running the business and invested a lot before, so let them give it to them. But if you have to tell the Ministry of Household Affairs, it won't do anything more than an inch. Zhou Man's official position in the imperial hospital was one stop, and the 5th-rank imperial physician became the 7th-rank medical department order. Officials of the local medical bureau do not have preferential treatment in the field of employment, but they will receive more lumi, and their salaries will be higher than that of officials of the same rank. This means that all the jobs that should be her 5th grade will be taken back, and Bai Erlang's promotion to the 2-level officials is obviously not enough. At least half of the jobs will have to be taken back to the household department. The emperor was afraid that the Ministry of Household Affairs would think that Bai Cheng was the son-in-law and gave him the job field in the old Nance Huang. That was not to please him, but to harm him. The censor of Yashitai is not a vegetarian. Gu Zhong understood the meaning of the emperor, smiled and went to the household department to beat it. So other officials who had been staring at Zhou Man's job field for a long time took action immediately. Some of them didn't get a job because they were promoted last year, and some wanted to change their jobs. Of course, those who do this are all officials below the 4th rank. Although the income of such a small job field is higher than their own, it is not worth it for officials above the minister. See you at 6 p.m. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2833. In addition to Zhou Man, Bai Shan also got the will of the outside world, and the two began to hand over their affairs. This year, a group of students from the Imperial Physician Department completed their studies. Because of the incident with the Luozhu Medical Department, Xiao Yuanzheng decided to send them to various established medical departments for a period of practice, and then recall them to complete their studies. After graduation, they will be dispatched to the local medical offices that were approved just a few years ago. A group of outstanding students were kept in the Imperial Medical Office and the Imperial Hospital for internships. Zhou Liruo, Chen Bangxia, and Suye were in the Imperial Hospital, and Zhou Man simply took them with them during this time. In order to make them familiar with the operation of the Taiyuan Hospital as soon as possible, Zhou Man directly took them around the capital and gave them a full set of safety pulses directly to the adults and their families in the capital. Today it's Lord Wei's turn. The reason why he had to choose a special day for him was because it was too difficult to block him in his house and in the palace, so Zhou Man could only post a post in advance to make an appointment with him, and then bring 3 students with him at the appointed time. Come to the door. They first checked Mrs. Wei's ping and pulse, and then went to see Mr. Wei after giving some advice on diet and health. Zhou Man first took the pulse of Lord Wei, asked him about his recent diet and work and rest, and said, Mr. Wei, you should rest more than you are tired and thoughtful. Master Wei smiled and was about to speak when Zhou Man had turned around and waved at her 3 students, come here and give Master Wei a pulse, write down his pulse, and you will take the test later. Zhou Liru immediately stepped forward and lined up to give Wei Ji a pulse. Wei Ji. He could only sit up honestly, and with a grin, he stretched out his hand to let them feel the pulse. When they were all finished, they raised their heads and said to Zhou Man, "Master Zhou, are we talking in the study?" Feeling disturbed enough, Zhou Man, who was about to get up and say goodbye, was stunned for a moment and then went to the study with Wei Ji. Wei Ji pondered for a while, and asked straight to the point, "Master Zhou, Imperial Physician Lu showed me before and said that my body has improved. Speaking of which, it is still Master Zhou's conditioning. Wei knows, Master Zhou's prescription is very good, especially that one pill. I wonder if you can tell me the prescription, or sell me some more." Man Bao said, "No more." Wei Ji. Zhou Man also felt a little guilty, but still said, "The prescription of the pill was modified by me according to your physical condition. It is not difficult to make, but I just added something to it when I made it." "What?" "I don't even know what it's called," Man Bao said nonchalantly. "We met at the foot of a mountain when we went to the western regions. We've never seen it before, not many. It was mixed with wild vegetables and eaten, but after eating it, I think it has the effect of tonifying qi and nourishing blood, especially for tonifying qi. It's a pity that there are not many things. At that time, I searched all over that piece and only got a few plants. At that time, when I made pills for adults, I added them all." This excuse is an excuse that Man Bao thought up in advance when she was making medicine. Everyone knows that she likes to dig flowers and plants. Now, if it wasn't for Keek, it would be hard for her to remember how many things she dug up. Wei Ji didn't have any doubts when he heard it. Of course, he also knew that Zhou Man liked it, and some people gave her some rare and precious plants instead of gold and silver when they sought medical treatment. He sighed and said, "This is the way of fate." Man Bao thought for a while, got up and wrote down the prescription with the pen and paper on his case, and said, "The soup and medicine are more effective, but the residual poison is also strong. This honey pill can be taken for a long time to support the body. Master Wei might as well take the prescription. Make medicine for people, take a pill every day before going to bed, although the effect is not as good as before, but it always has the effect of nourishing the body." Mr. Wei responded and sent Zhou Man out with a smile. Wei Ji returned to his study, took out a handkerchief from the drawer, opened it, it was wrapped in oil paper, opened it, and there was only some medicinal residues in it. He remembered what his confidant brought back. A total of 3 famous doctors were invited to try the medicine, and they all gave the approximate name of the medicine used, which was basically correct, but after they took it, 2 of them bluntly said that the pill's qi-invigorating effect is stronger than the square decoction, and has the ability to consolidate the essence. Ask us if the method of concocting is different, so it has this effect, and it is entangled with the source of the small pill. Wei Ji tapped the table unconsciously with his fingers. The pills were as effective as Zhou Man said, but they were only 1 bottle, and there were no more. Wei Ji shook his head and smiled, remembering something, and hurriedly called someone over, "Go after Lord Zhou and ask her if she remembers what that herb looks like. Can you draw it?" "There is no more at the moment, but they can ask the merchants who travel to and from the western regions to pay attention, maybe they will gain something." At this time, Man Bao was sighing with Keek, "Why didn't Master Wei ask me for a portrait? I've prepared it for him." Coco ignored her. The image of Zhou Man was provided by him as a friend. There are some plants in its database that are not found in this world. One of them has the effect of invigorating qi and blood, and the effect is not bad. It is also a medicinal material in their world. The green medicinal liquid that can consolidate and restore the body's data is extracted from this plant. It can repair the physical damage caused by the day after tomorrow, and can also promote the generation of new cells to repair the body. Of course, the technology mentioned is also difficult to master. Zhou Man looked at it and made sure that she had never seen or heard of this medicinal material, so she drew a picture and kept it. Thinking that Master Wei will ask about the difference in the efficacy of the medicine in the future, I will take it out, and if you don't ask, forget it. In the end, she was all ready, but Mr. Wei asked, but he didn't give her a chance to show it. Man Beijing regretted that the servants of the Wei house chased after him. As soon as she was excited, she immediately said, I have already painted the things and put them at home. Please come with me and I will give you the things. When she took out the portrait and gave it to him, she said with a big smile, if Lord Wei is fortunate enough to find this herb, I wonder if you can give me a few strains. It's best to live, or die, okay. Wei's servant. Although she hadn't seen it before, Keek also said that this medicine was a plant unique to one of their future planets, but what if? The land of their world is so vast and the species are so rich, she may not be able to see it all in her entire life. What if it hides in a corner of the world? So there is still hope. The servant of the Wei residence took a picture and went back to Wei Ji, and reported the matter to him in detail, saying, Sir, Lord Zhou has obviously been waiting for us to ask. Wei Ji laughed, shook his head and said, it's hard for her, it's rare to find such medicinal herbs, but it's all used on me. Wei Ji paused and said, this matter can't be spread out, even you and I are the only people at home who know about it, and it can't be heard by a third person. Confidant should go down. Wei Ji put down the doubts in his heart, and began to touch the official documents next to him. The servant couldn't help but persuade him, Sir, Lord Zhou asked you to rest more. Today is a holiday, so you can take a rest. Sorry, I made a typo, see you at 10 p.m. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2834. It is impossible to rest. Wei Ji listened to the servant's words, put down the official document and walked outside for 2 laps to rest, and then he couldn't hold back and turned back to the study. The next person saw it and could do nothing. Everyone who should see Zhou Man has seen it, and the matter of the Taiyuan hospital is almost handed over, so there is only the matter of Changguan Hall. Kong Jiju only said to her, you can only borrow this part of the books you want to lend. Zhou Man looked at it and asked, why? Because there are not enough transcripts. If you borrow a copy of the Changguan Museum, there will only be 1 copy left here. If you lose it, it will be a loss. Kong Jiju frowned, you have worked in the Changguan Museum for so many years. You often use books, don't you have a copy? Zhou Man complained, I'm so busy, how can I have time to copy the book, and when I have time to copy it, is it not good to write a new medical book directly? Kong Jiju squinted his eyes, ordered the 3 books on the book list, and said, I see that you borrowed these 3 books from the medical books you've compiled. Are these 3 books not transcribed? No, I just took it down. Kong sacrifice wine. Seeing that it was going to be bad, she quickly explained, although I have memorized it, you also know that the older you are, the worse your memory is. I'm afraid that when I get to Qingzhou, I can't remember it occasionally. It's bad to be wrong. Kong Jiju took a deep breath and suppressed the air in his chest before he said, then remove these 3 books, you have finished writing the book, and the Changguan Museum will have to check it. You're wrong, Chance. Man Bao. Kong Jiju crossed out the title of the book while talking, and wanted to see which books could be deleted. He said, you take so many books out, if something happens, then Changguan Museum will, it's a small loss. Man Bao, shouldn't you feel sorry for me? I'm always more important than a book, right? Kong Jiju thought it was true, so he said to her, Master Zhou, you have to take good care of yourself. Man Bao, not very happy. Man Bao packed a lot of books from the Changguan Museum, plus his own books and books in the space, there are many old and young. She received nearly a box of her own manuscript papers and medical records. The box is covered with a layer of oiled paper, and the box is closed after wrapping the book, so that the book will not get wet even if it rains. The servants carried these boxes to the car and tied them up, and Guang's Human and Bai Shan's books were loaded into the car. Mrs. Lu stood under the porch and watched for a while, then beckoned to call Bai Shan and Zhou Man into the room to talk. She said, "This time you take Lu Gui with you and let him handle some trivial matters for you." Mrs. Lu paused and then said, "This side of the backyard, Man Bao, who do you think will take care of it?" Man Bao said, "Maybe stable, and she will take care of the backyard." Mrs. Lu nodded approvingly, "Let's leave it to Mei. Bowen of Daji's family has married a wife, but Shuping has not settled down yet. I asked Mrs. Mang, she wants to stay here to take care of the two children. Daji will still follow you." Mrs. Lu said, "You guys don't pull Daji to do bad things." "No," Bai Shan assured, "we are very sensible now." Although Mrs. Lu didn't believe it in her heart, she didn't say it on her face. They released the rankings in 2 days. "I don't know if they will pass the test this time." Man Bao also thought about it after hearing the words. Zhou Lixiu and Zhou Lego also participated this year. "I wonder if they can pass the exam this time. It is said that they are not too young, and the Mingjing is not very difficult. As the saying goes, 30 old Mingjing, 50 Jinchi. If Zhou Lixiu fails this year, then next year will be 30 years old to test Mingjing. Rounding up to the nearest 30th can be regarded as the Old Ming Sutra." Man Bao said with a solemn expression, "If they still fail the exam this year, let them live in the school and study. The conditions are a little more difficult, and students are entering and leaving, and they can concentrate a little bit in their studies." Zhou Lixiu and the others had no idea about it. They had just passed the exam 2 days ago, and they were still emptying their minds to recover their bodies. They looked like fish that jumped on the shore and lacked water. But no one paid any attention to them. Everyone was either preparing for Zhou Liru's marriage, or preparing for the trip for my sister-in-law. Old Zhutu is discussing with Qianxi, otherwise we will go along and help her with the housework. Qian folded the underwear made for Man Bao and said, "What kind of housework do they need us to take care of?" She said, "I heard Man Bao say that my in-laws sent Lu Gui's family to follow, and when they got there, they ordered a shop to do business, so that they could run errands and manage external affairs. It doesn't need us." She said, "And my in-laws didn't follow me. You are my husband-in-law. Can my uncle be at ease? Let their young couple live on their own. Without us, they wouldn't know how comfortable they would be. Otherwise, they wouldn't go back to the house on Changqing Lane from time to time. It's warm to live together as a family, but occasionally the two of them are very comfortable living by themselves." Qianxi never thought of going out with them. She said, "We are either in the capital or going back to our hometown, and we can just give Manbao a good job field." When she said this, she lowered her voice and said, "Manbao has lost the officials of the Tai Hospital, and I think the officials at the Chongquen Hall may also be lost in the future, so while the job field is still in hand, give more. She's saving up some money." This is a serious matter. Lao Zhutu was shocked and thought, "You are right, we Manbao are naturally very good, but I just found out today, there is still involvement in the officialdom. My first two." When Tian asked the gatekeeper, he realized that being an official means not only the apprentice will implicate the master when he commits a crime, the apprentice will be implicated when the master commits a crime, and the subordinate will be implicated when the Shangguan commits a crime, and so on. Of course we Manbao won't commit crimes, but we can't help her popularity. What if someone close to her nose commits crimes? Old Zhutu did not know that there was a reason for the implication. The two sides either had interests, had the same political stance, or committed crimes together. It is said that the master is the same as the father. Do you really think that the father and the son are so recognizable? The list was released within 2 days of Mingjing, and Manbao and Bai Shan no longer needed to go to the yamen, so they simply went to the tea house outside Gongyuan to wait. Bai Erlang skipped work and went with them to join in the fun, and he met Yin Or, a wealthy idler, so everyone asked for a private room to sit down. Zhou Lixiu was restless for a while, and after sitting for a while, he got up, turned his head and said to Zhou Man, "Little ant, we have to go and see the list in person." "Go go." Zhou Lixiu saluted after four, and then ran down into the crowd. Yin Or squeezed a piece of dessert to eat and said, "It seems that there are more places admitted this year than in previous years." This Bai Shan knew. He nodded and said, "Yes, the Imperial Medical Office also needs clerical jobs, so the number of applicants for vacancies is large, and this year, more admissions." Yin Heben said, "They have caught up with the time." Man Bao was also a little nervous, and said, "I hope they can pass. If this is not the case, I feel that next year is even more hanging. See you at 11 o'clock. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2835. There was a dang sound from far outside the window, and Man Bao immediately sat up straight and looked out the window. Bai Shan said, very experienced, "I just banged the gong and just released the list. It will definitely take a while to know the result." Although he also wanted to know the result, he still decided to divert everyone's attention first, so that Zhou Man would not be so nervous. "Linhai, Bihai County, you haven't been to the beach yet. When we settle down there, please go. Qingzhou to play for a while." Yin Or nodded in agreement with a smile. He no longer goes to Chongguan Museum to study, and he can't join the entertainment activities of the gangsters in the capital, and he can't be too busy with official duties, so now he reads books every day, and occasionally gathers with Bai Shan and the others. Once together, the temptation to go out for a walk is still great. Bai Erlang immediately said, "I'll go too." He was distressed, "I don't know if I can go out." Bai Shan said, "Don't you want to go out?" Bai Erlang sighed and said, "Isn't that all of you in the capital? I didn't think at the time that you were going to leave the capital now. Who am I going to play with in the future?" He said, "Before, I always felt that there was not enough time. When everyone was resting, they played near the capital, and when they were working, they wrote books and organized some official documents. It would be very good, but you are all gone." Man Bao immediately said, "Lu Huan is still in the capital, and there are many classmates and seniors. You can play with them." Bai Erlang thought for a while and then shook his head, "Forget it, Lu Huan pays it back. The others haven't seen each other for a while, and the friendship has faded. It's not good to call people out to meet for no reason." He couldn't help complaining, "Zhao Liaolang can talk, but I'm not interested in many of the things he likes to play with." "It's good not to be interested," Bai Shan said, "it costs money, energy, and body." Just as he was talking, he heard Zhou Lixiu's screams at the tip of his ears. After speaking, he couldn't help but turn his head and heard the sound of running on the stairs. The others noticed it too, and looked up at the door together. Zhou Lixiu ran back from the Gongyuan all the way, ran from downstairs to upstairs in one breath, slammed open the box door, and shouted with bright eyes, "I passed the exam. Sister, we all passed the exam." Zhou Ligu and Bai Shuping were 2 steps behind him, and they also ran up out of breath. Man Bao's eyes brightened, and he confirmed, "Have all 4 passed the exam?" "Yes," Zhou Lixiu pulled Bai Shuping and said, "Shuping is the most powerful, he passed the exam 23rd, and then the eldest brother-in-law, he got 36th, Ligu and I are a little worse, hey. He's 83, I'm 87. Man Bao wondered, "Don't you always praise you, sir, why are you worse than Ligu?" Zhou Lixiu didn't care at all, he waved his hand and said, "Don't worry about him, just pass the exam. 83 is the Mingjing, isn't the 87th also the Mingjing?" He felt that as long as he was on the list. Bai Shan smiled and said, "I guess it must be a matter of words." Man Bao looked at Zhou Lixiu up and down and thought it was very possible, but this is not the time to find the wrong one, so he said to the four of them, "Good job, I will go back tonight and give you a red envelope." The four of them were faintly excited, but said reservedly, "Little ant, we are all grown up, we don't need to take red envelopes." They passed the Mingjing exam, and they passed the Mingjing exam. After that, they can become officials to make money, support themselves, and support their families, ha ha ha. Zhou Lixiu and Zhou Ligu were too excited, they endured it, but they couldn't hold back, they stood at the door of the box and laughed loudly. Halfway through laughing, I felt that this was not good, so I squeezed my fist and stuffed it into my mouth, but my eyes narrowed with laughter, and I couldn't even see the seam. Bai Shan, you can laugh if you want, you don't have to be so reserved. The two put down their fists and grinned, and even the restrained Bai Shuping and Guanyang couldn't help but narrow their eyes. After laughing for a while, the four of them felt that the breath that had accumulated in their hearts all laughed out, and a sense of pride rose from the bottom of their hearts. "Little ant, we can also serve the people in the future." Man Bao said with a smile, "Congratulations, congratulations." The others also hurriedly congratulated the four of them. Zhou Lixiu said anxiously, "Little ant, let's go back and tell the family that grandparents and my parents are still waiting. The messengers must have gone back, where can they be used? But let them go back and feel the joy of their victory." So they waved their hands. "Okay, you go back first." The four of them happily ran away. Old Zhutu and the others are already very experienced. After all, Bai Shan, Bai Erlang, and Bai Dalan all passed the exam and reported good news here. So as soon as he heard the sound of the gong outside, Lao Zhutu, who was sitting on the stone pier in the door, immediately stood up and pointed at the door, "Quick, go out and have a look." Zhou Dalan couldn't help standing up, and he raised his foot to open the door in person. The concierge had already opened the door halfway, and when he looked out, it turned out that it was the Annunciation team coming to their house, and immediately opened the door. "Which member of our family passed the exam?" Zika banged on the gong and shouted loudly, "The 87th student from Zhou Lixiu Langjun High School in your house." When the old Zhutu heard the great joy, Zhou Dalan's heart skipped a beat, his eyes were blurred, and he felt that his ears could not hear anything. He saw the fourth brother grabbing him and saying something loudly, and it took a while to hear clearly, "Brother, we finally got one of the boys in our family." He finally had some confidence in his son, otherwise he might really have to work hard with his wife to have another daughter. Having a daughter is so hard. The Qian family had already sent the reward money to the Hai Chai, but before the Hai Chap came out, another servant who was beating gongs and drums came, and he said loudly, "The government established Gulang Jun High School last week as the 83rd. But it's not over yet. Zhou Ligu's ranking is very close to Zhou Lixiu's. The reason why he came here after so long is because he has read all the lists," so he continued to report, "The 36th place in Guanyang Langjun High School. The 23rd of Bai Shuping Langjun High School in the house." He finished reporting in one breath, and then grinned at the Zhou family. Old Zhutu's fingers trembled slightly. All in." With bright eyes, he said, "Reward, reward, quickly get the reward money." Because he was waiting for the list to be released, Daji, who didn't go out with Bai Shan today, also came to his senses, and immediately pulled the purse from his waist and stretched it out. Madame Lu let out a sigh of relief, and couldn't help but clasped her fist on her chest and said, "Master Tianzun bless you." Qian Shi also felt that it was Lord Tianzun's blessing, and it was worthwhile to worship her day and night before. The Zhou family and the Bai family were all happy. Especially Zhou Dalan and Xiaoqianqi, not only did their son pass the examination, but also their son-in-law passed the examination. The two of them were so happy that their eyes were filled with tears, and then they began to look for someone. "Where's Santu? Where did Santu go?" Thursday Lang said loudly, "Sister-in-law, They haven't come back from watching the list, they must be playing outside. No, we're back. Zhou Lixia jumped out of the car after hearing what Zhou Li said, and ran in first, his eyes narrowed with laughter. Father, mother, I passed the test, I passed the test. Now dash. I wish little fat girl needs positive energy, a happy wedding, 100 years of marriage. See you tomorrow. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2836. The Zhou family can be said to be a double happiness, because Zhou Man's worries and depression due to Zhou Man's relegation and exile immediately dissipated a lot. Everyone was happy to celebrate. On Thursday, Lang asked Qianxi, "Mother, do you want to invite guests to celebrate?" Qian said, "Wait for Man Bao to come back and ask her." After thinking about it, Man Bao said, "There is no need for a big banquet, just set up a few tables at home, just invite their husbands to the same table, or give them money to go out to a restaurant and hotel to have a good meal." She said, "Although we asked for this release, but after all, it was demoted, so it's better to keep a low profile. No matter what the inside story is, we still have to have an attitude." Shiro tilted his head. "What's the inside story?" Oh, Shuyo Lang and the others didn't know about these things. Man Bao thought about it and felt that it was too troublesome to explain, so he said, "This matter is too long and complicated, so to sum it up in one sentence, our foreign affairs this time are too complicated. Let it go with a purpose, and we'll be back." Shiro, when are you coming back? As short as 3 or 5 years. On Thursday, Lang's heart froze. What about the length? That's too long. If it's long, it means that what they have to do is not going well, so who knows when it will be. So she said, "The length is that I can't count how long it is." Shiro stopped talking. In the end, the family gave the 4 people a little money and let them go out to entertain their friends, classmates, and husband. The family continued to prepare a dowry for Zhou Liru. Tuesday Lang and Wednesday Lang arrived 2 days before the wedding, and they also brought the tea he wanted to Thursday Lang. The two said, "We went looking for someone according to what you wrote in your letter, but because you didn't go, they gave less tea than you asked for, and because we had to go to Beijing, I didn't go to other tea merchants. I'm afraid your business will be smaller this year." Thursday Lang said indifferently, "It's okay, I will bring more food to go north this year." He said, "Last winter, there were snow disasters in many places in the north, and now the shortage of grain is the most. Last year, a lot of grain was produced in Manbao's working fields, but they have not been sold yet. This time it happened to be shipped to the north. It's too cheap to sell in the capital." On the side, Saturday Lang said, "Remember to leave me enough food for the restaurant." Thuro nodded. Zhou Lijun on the side said, "I can only give you half of the credit when you pick up the food. You have to settle half of the account first. My sister-in-law has to send it out, so there must be more money outside." Neither Thursday Lang nor Saturday Lang had any comments. Qian's family was also talking about money with Lao's Hutu. The poor family is rich, they will definitely buy a lot of things when they arrive in a new place, so they need to bring more money. Don't we save some money for Manbao? Pack up. Come out and bring it all to her, we will add some more and let her take it, in case anything happens, there will be a turnaround. The old Zhou head should go down. Feng Shi was checking Zhou Liru's dowry. Seeing that she had a lot of dowry, she was speechless and asked her quietly, "This is all bought by your grandma and aunt?" Zhou Liru nodded, but didn't tell her mother that the big head was the dowry gift from the Lu family, and then it was done by her savings over the years. The grandparents also gave some, the sister-in-law also gave a lot, and then the makeup was given by the brothers and sisters. Feng Shi was amazed when she saw it, and asked her, then who received the dowry gift from the Lu family. Zhou Lejun heard this when he came in, and laughed with her mother. Mother, most of the dowry from the Lu family was given to Li Ru as a dowry, and the rest were taken by grandparents. She reached out and hugged her arm, and asked with a smile, Mother, what dowry did you prepare for the third sister? Take it out to show your daughter. Feng Shi said, there is no good thing in Lujiang County. Your father and I brought money and planned to buy it in the capital, but I just took a look and found that we have everything that we should have, and we can't add it if we want to add it. She brought the topic back and asked, where's the dowry list from the Lu family? Show it to me. Zhou Lejun, Mother, are you literate? Damn girl, you won't read it to me if I don't know how to read. Hurry up, I'll see what the bride price is. Zhou Lejun went to get the gift list to show her. Feng Shi didn't know the words above, but just looking at the long list was enough to make her feel shocked. So many, do big families pay so many betrothal gifts to marry their wives? Yes or no, Zhou Lejun said with a smile, the things above are all affordable, and that's what the Lu family thinks of their younger sister. There are 2 farms and 2 shops on it, all of which were sent back as a dowry. In the future, this part will be the private property of the young couple, and they can't be divided between the families. It can be seen that the Lu family is really planning for the 2 of them. Feng Shi couldn't help but his heart skipped a beat when he heard that there were 2 farms and 2 shops above. Zhou Lejun seemed to know what her mother was thinking, and before she could speak, he said, except for the first few utensils on the list, the rest of the grandmother is the master and added to the third sister's dowry. Feng sighed, she dared not object to her mother-in-law's intentions. Zhou Lejun hugged her and said with a smile, Mother, the marriages of the 3 of us have been completed. You have also considered a concern. In the future, you will only follow us and enjoy happiness. Why think so much? Feng Shi also thought about it. Your uncle's family still has 3 marriages to be decided, not to mention your third uncle, the 4th has not been engaged, and the 5th is still young. In this way, they are indeed the fastest and most blessed in this room. Feng Shi became happy again, and asked Zhou Lejun in a low voice, the second daughter-in-law hasn't been doing anything this year. Zhou Lejun, well, that's what it means to not want to enjoy happiness yet. She said, what's the rush? The most important thing in our family is a doctor, not to mention my sister-in-law, and my sister-in-law and third sister, they have all shown it to my younger brothers and sisters. She is in good health. She is also recuperating this year. You can get pregnant, but if you don't get pregnant, it's probably a problem with the second end, so let my aunt show him. My sister-in-law is also famous for her infertility. Feng Shi said with a pooh, nodding on her forehead, today you have charcoal in your mouth, and your mouth is full of anger. Did your brother invite you to provoke you? When Feng Shi left, Zhou Lejun said to Zhou Liru, Li Wei didn't mess with me, but I'm not very happy. Mother will not say anything about adding dowry to you after seeing your dowry. Zhou Liru didn't care very much, second sister, I have enough dowry. Zhou Liru has been with her sister-in-law in Beijing since she was 8 or 9 years old. Her memory of her parents is far away, and her relationship has naturally faded. She is the closest to her sister-in-law and the second sister, and her relationship with her parents may not be comparable to that with her uncle and aunt. It is good. After all, love is about getting along. And her dowry is indeed enough, and a little less is nothing. However, Zhou Lejun said, others' share can be less, but parents' share cannot, but you don't have to worry, if mother doesn't add, father will definitely add, you just wait. See you at 6 p.m. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2837. Sure enough, in the evening, Zhou Liru went to Zhou Liru with a bag of money, and he whispered to her, this is the money that your mother and I originally set for you to buy a dowry, but let's take a look today, everything in your dowry is already complete, and adding more is a waste of money and doesn't look good. So I'll give you the money directly. I thought about it for a moment. The Lu family is a big family. Our family is not so bad because of your sister-in-law's support, but there is still a difference between family background and family background. The list is on, and I keep it secretly. He said, when you need to use it in the future, you can use it quietly, and you don't have to look at people's eyes. He added, if you are bullied in the Lu family, you don't have to be afraid. I have already inquired about it clearly. There are only 2 brothers in their family, and even counting cousins, there are only 5. We have more brothers, there are 9, and your uncles are still alive, and there will be more and more in the future. If his Lu family dares to bully you, we can't do anything else, scold him and beat him. He's still fine. Zhou Liru comforted her father and said, Dad, don't worry, my aunt taught us acupuncture and moxibustion before, where acupuncture can make people weak, and where acupuncture can make people feel unbearable pain but can't find out what's wrong. Lu Huan can't bully me. Tuesday Lang, suddenly I'm a little worried about my little son-in-law, what should I do? On Tuesday, Lang gave Zhou Liru the money. The 3rd day was the wedding. Early in the morning, the Zhou family started to get busy. Man Bao, Bai Shan, Bai Erlang, and the others stood at the gate and waited. From a distance, when they saw Lu Huan riding a horse and being surrounded by people, they clicked tut twice, waved their hands, and the gate behind them was closed. When Lu Huan saw them stunned, seeing Yin or Du standing aside, he immediately shouted, this is not fair, you are elders, how can you come to block the door? Bai Shan said as soon as he heard it, come and call uncle, and we'll leave. Man Bao was also refreshed and looked at him with bright eyes. Lu Huan, as we agreed, we are classmates. Bai Shan said, since you want us to be your classmates, we are your peers, and it is only right that we stand here. Lu Huan always felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't say it for a while, and the young people who followed him to greet the relatives immediately pushed him and said, my husband can bend or stretch, why should I call them first? That's right, anyway, you have to call when the 3 dynasties go home to recognize your relatives. At that time, can you talk about different things in front of your elders? Lu Huan looked at Bai Shan and Zhou Man, opened his mouth to their faces, held it in for a long time, and his face turned red before he called out, little aunt, little uncle. Man Bao and Bai Shan responded with a crisp hey, and Bai Erlang immediately stepped forward, what about me, what about me? Lu Huan looked at him without opening his mouth. Bai Erlang said, I am their junior brother, can you deny this? Call me uncle. The companions behind Lu Huan pushed him and said happily, call, anyway, I have called too, and this one is not bad. Lu Huan asked them angrily, are you my guests or their guests? Oh, everything goes smoothly for the wedding, and it's true that the family is relatively older, so it's not fake, is it? Lu Huan could only call out Uncle Shi at Bai Erlang. Bai Erlang was satisfied, so he happily stepped aside, and the rest was Zhou Lizhong's work. The 3 of them also kept their word, and stood aside with Yin or watching him go through the barrier without interrupting. Lu Huan breathed a sigh of relief, and it was fine. Without the intervention of the 4 of them, with the help of his wedding team, he went very smoothly. The people of the old Zhou family had a lot of experience blocking the door. When Lu Huan arrived at the main hall, it was just auspicious time. Zhou Lijun and Zhou Lixin helped Zhou Liru out together. Zhou Liru said goodbye to his grandparents and parents, and knelt down at Zhou Man and Bai Shan who were standing aside. Zhou Man was startled, reached out and grabbed one of her arms. Zhou Liru looked up at Zhou Man and said, little aunt, you must wait for me to return before leaving. They set off on the day after tomorrow, which was the day when Zhou Liru returned home. She smiled and said, okay, wait for you to come back to see us. Zhou Liru breathed a sigh of relief, and respectfully kowtowed to Zhou Man, thank you, master, for your cultivation over the years. She just got up, and Zhou Liwei stepped forward, crouched down in front of her and smiled, "Come up quickly, don't miss the auspicious time." Zhou Liru's eyes were red, and Zhou Lijun stepped forward to support her on Zhou Liwei's back, and said with a smile, "Our family is in the capital, and the two families are only 2 blocks away. When you get homesick, you come back. What's there to cry about?" Lu Huan nodded again, and said, "Don't worry, if you get homesick, I'll come back with you." The guests laughed, and some people coaxed, "I can't let Lu Shangshu hear this, or Lu Shangshu will have to find trouble with Lord Zhou. Is he marrying a daughter-in-law or a grandson?" The crowd laughed. Only then did Zhou Liru hold back the tears, leaned on Zhou Liwei's back, and let him carry it out. The Lu family was also decorated with lanterns, and when the newcomers arrived, they would worship. Both Lu Shangshu and Mrs. Lu were very happy. The grandson who was the most worried about finally got married. "This burden has been handed over, so I am very happy." Liu's father and Liu's mother did not come back, but only sent a steward-in-law to come back with a gift for the new daughter-in-law. It's understandable that Father Lu didn't come back. After all, he was a provincial governor. Unless his parents were seriously ill or died, he couldn't easily leave Suzhou and come back. But the daughter-in-law didn't come back, which made Mrs. Lu a little unhappy, but in the face of this new couple, she pressed her displeasure to the bottom of her heart. After they had bowed to the hall, they instructed the people, "Go and watch, don't let the ladies and gentlemen make too much trouble, our little lady is thin-skinned." The mammy and the girls responded with a smile and turned around to stare at the new house. The next day, when she recognized her relatives, Mrs. Lu gave Zhou Liru a set of jade ornaments in front of her family. She smiled and said, "This was given by my grandmother when I got married. I have always been reluctant to give it to others, so I will give it today." "Is you?" Zhou Liru was stunned for a moment, and after glancing at Lu Huan, he respectfully accepted it. Lu Huan's 2 aunts knew what they knew when they saw it, and they were more polite and respectful to Zhou Liru. One took off the bracelet from her hand and gave it to her with the gift she prepared earlier in the morning, and the other pulled it out. The gold hairpin and red seal on the head were given to her. Mammy holding a box on the side. Only then did Mrs. Lu introduce her, "This is Madame Gao by your mother's side. They are far away in Suzhou and can't come back in time, so they sent Madame Gao back." Lu Huan brought Zhou Liru forward to greet him, but Mammy Gao did not dare to accept the 2 of them, so she stepped aside and bowed back. "This is a gift that Madame asked my servant to bring back to the newlyweds. Madame knows that she can't come back, so I feel wronged. Madame, when she comes back, she will make up for her," she said. "I also asked the lady not to dislike it." Zhou Liru accepted it with a smile, and said, "Mother is too polite. Every stitch and thread given by my mother is a reward. My daughter-in-law can only be grateful, how can she dare to dislike it?" See you at 9.